In the kingdom of ETITI, a prosperous Igbo village, Ezeala, a wealthy and ambitious man, sought power unlike any mortal had ever known. He dreamed of becoming a god, immortal and revered forever. The villagers respected him for his wealth but whispered about his cruelty. Ezeala's ambition was fueled by fear. He wanted to be feared as much as he was admired. He sought guidance from the old chief priest, who spoke of rituals forbidden to mortals. The priest warned him that to ascend, he would need the most unthinkable sacrifice, that of his own son, the child he loved dearly. Ezeala's heart wavered, but desire drowned conscience. He prepared his home, decorated with rare ivory and carved artifacts, and called his son to him. The boy, curious and innocent, smiled brightly, unaware of the plan. Ezeala's hand trembled as he recited the ancient incantations, invoking the spirits and gods that govern the kingdom. Villagers gathered silently outside, sensing something unnatural. They prayed for mercy, but no one dared enter Ezeala's compound. Candles flickered, shadows danced across the walls, and the wind carried whispers of the spirits watching closely. That night, the village slept uneasily. Even the king's messengers murmured their apprehensions. The air in ETITI was heavy with anticipation, thick with fear and the promise of change. Little did Ezeala know that the gods observed his actions with keen eyes, and that ambition born of cruelty often carries consequences beyond human comprehension. The ritual began, and the line between life and death, mortal and divine, started to blur. Ezeala began the ritual at midnight. The village was silent, save for the occasional owl and the whisper of the wind through the palm trees. Inside his compound, the boy knelt obediently as his father's hands moved over sacred symbols drawn in chalk and powdered herbs. The chief priest, adorned in a flowing robe of symbolic patterns, chanted solemn incantations that echoed through the night. Outside, villagers gathered discreetly, hiding behind the fences and shadows, hearts heavy with fear. They could sense the magnitude of what was happening and prayed fervently for the child's safety. The firelight flickered on the faces of women dressed in wrappers and blouses, their expressions etched with worry and disbelief. Men, bare-chested and marked with tribal scars, whispered nervously among themselves. Ezeala's ambition surged as he invoked the spirits of ETITI, calling upon powers reserved for the divine. His voice shook with a mix of fear and determination. The chief priest's eyes widened as the atmosphere thickened. The air seemed heavier, charged with invisible energy. The floor trembled slightly, and shadows elongated unnaturally. The boy looked up, sensing the weight of the moment. He trusted his father, unaware of the gravity of the ritual. Ezeala's heart wavered momentarily, but desire for godhood pushed him forward. He raised his hands and spoke the final words of the incantation. Suddenly, a bright light filled the room. The priest gasped and fell to his knees. Outside, the wind swirled violently. Villagers clutched one another, some praying aloud, others hiding their eyes. Ezeala felt a strange sensation, as if unseen hands were gripping his soul. He had completed the ritual, but the gods themselves were watching, judging, and waiting to decide if he was worthy. The morning after the ritual, ETITI awoke to an uneasy calm. Birds chirped nervously, and the sun seemed weaker than usual, as if reluctant to rise. Ezeala felt a strange power coursing through him, an intoxicating mix of pride and fear. He believed the gods had accepted him, but the village could feel otherwise. Whispers spread quickly, Ezeala has changed, something is wrong. At the king's palace, messengers arrived, their faces pale and anxious. The king, dressed in royal traditional robes, summoned Ezeala, his expression stern. "What has been done in your compound last night?" he asked. Ezeala, confident and unrepentant, recounted the ritual and his ambition to ascend. The king's face darkened, even his guards, tall and imposing, exchanged uneasy glances. In the village square, women in wrappers and blouses spoke quietly about the strange aura surrounding Ezeala. Men with tribal marks avoided his gaze. Children whispered as they passed, sensing the unnatural energy radiating from the compound. The chief priest, summoned by the king, confirmed that while Ezeala had performed the ritual correctly, the gods did not approve of the cruelty involved. Ezeala's heart raced. He had sacrificed his own son for power, yet the gods themselves rejected him. Anger and frustration surged, but no mortal force could alter divine judgment. Villagers watched from a distance, both fearful and fascinated, as Ezeala's confidence slowly shifted into dread. By nightfall, Ezeala realized that the power he felt was temporary, a shadow of true divinity. The spirits whispered through the trees and flickered in the candlelight, reminding him that ambition without virtue is always punished. His wealth, his influence, and even his mortal safety now hung by the thinnest thread. The village slept cautiously, knowing that the man who dared defy the gods might face consequences far beyond human comprehension. Night fell over ETITI with a thick, suffocating darkness. Ezeala could not sleep. The house where he once felt safe now seemed alive with whispers, shadows shifting across the walls. His heart pounded as he remembered the gods' judgment. He had sought immortality, but the spirits were not silent, they were angry. In the village square, the chief priest convened a midnight council. Women in colorful wrappers and blouses circled the sacred fire, chanting softly, their faces lit with solemn devotion. Men with tribal marks and bare chests stood tall, guarding the perimeter. The priest raised his arms and invoked the spirits of ETITI, calling for guidance and mercy. Suddenly, the wind twisted violently, extinguishing torches and scattering embers. A low, haunting chant filled the air. Ezeala, standing nearby, felt invisible hands grip his chest, a coldness seeping into his bones. The spirits spoke through the fire, their voices echoing in his mind. They would not allow him to ascend because of the evil he had sown. Fear replaced pride. Ezeala's ambition faltered, and guilt clawed at him like a living thing. The villagers trembled as the chief priest announced the verdict. Ezeala's mortal deeds had tainted his soul, and the gods demanded a penance he could not imagine. The night stretched long and heavy. Ezeala realized that no amount of wealth or rituals could undo what he had done. His son's sacrifice had been in vain, and the village's whispers grew louder in his ears. Even the protective guards could not shield him from the spiritual consequences that now enveloped every corner of his life. By dawn, the villagers watched as Ezeala staggered home, haunted, broken, and powerless before the divine judgment that had been long denied. The kingdom of ETITI had witnessed a warning: ambition tainted by cruelty is never rewarded. By the 5th day after the ritual, Ezeala's presence in the village had grown unbearable. Whispers became shouts, and unease spread like wildfire. Even his once loyal servants avoided him, their eyes filled with dread. The villagers, women in vibrant wrappers and blouses, and men bare-chested with tribal marks, gathered secretly, fearing not just his ambition but the wrath of the gods upon them all. The king, dressed in royal regalia, summoned a council. Ezeala has gone too far, he declared, his voice echoing through the compound. He has disturbed the balance of ETITI. The gods themselves are angry. Tall, well-built bodyguards flanked the king, eyes scanning the crowd, alert to any unrest. Ezeala, arrogant as ever, believed he could quell the village's fear with threats and wealth. He strode through the village square, his son's memory haunting him. The ground seemed to tremble beneath his steps, and an invisible heaviness clung to his shoulders. Suddenly, women and men emerged from hiding, confronting him with torches and chants. They demanded justice, their voices rising in a powerful rhythm that echoed the spirit's judgment. The chief priest stood at their forefront, his robe flowing as he raised sacred artifacts, invoking the gods' protection. Ezeala's heart pounded as he realized no wealth, no power, no mortal weapon could protect him now. The villagers, united and guided by divine force, surrounded him. Fear replaced arrogance. Every whispered prayer, every chant from the women and men, seemed to pierce his soul. By nightfall, the village square had become a stage for justice. Ezeala, the man who sacrificed his son for godhood, faced the combined will of his people and the judgment of the unseen. The kingdom of ETITI had drawn a line. Ambition that brings harm will always be punished. Ezeala's arrogance had finally crumbled. The villagers' chants reverberated through the village, carrying the weight of generations and the judgment of the gods. Women in colorful wrappers and blouses swayed rhythmically, their voices intertwining with the deep tones of men bare-chested with tribal marks, creating a haunting, powerful harmony that filled the night air. Inside the king's compound, the king, dressed in royal regalia, watched in solemn silence. The chief priest stood beside him, holding sacred artifacts, eyes closed in prayer. The spiritual energy of ETITI seemed tangible, pressing against Ezeala like an unseen force. Even his bodyguards, tall and well-built, faltered, unsure if their strength could counter divine will. Ezeala's heart pounded. He had sacrificed his son for power, yet the gods themselves had rejected him. The winds rose, whipping through the village square, carrying embers from the torches. Shadows of the spirits stretched across the ground, surrounding him. Every step he took felt heavier than the last, and his chest burned as if the heavens themselves were pressing down. The chief priest raised his arms, chanting in the ancient tongue. A blinding light shone from the sacred artifacts. Ezeala screamed, clutching his head, the villagers stepping back in awe and fear. In that moment, he understood, no mortal ambition, no cruelty, no wealth could grant godhood. The gods demanded virtue and respect, and he had given only arrogance and cruelty. As the light faded, Ezeala collapsed. The villagers stood in reverent silence. He had been humbled completely, broken before both man and spirit. ETITI's balance was restored. The kingdom had witnessed a lesson that would be passed down for generations. In this life and the next, ambition without morality invites destruction.